I'm now calling the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Steenhuisen.
Madam Speaker, House Chairperson, Chairperson of the NCOP, Mr. President, honourable members. South Africa is in a crisis. For 10 years, our population has grown faster than our economy, making us poorer. We have the highest unemployment rate on earth, and that has now been the case for decades. Violent crime still destroys the lives and livelihoods of our people at a terrible rate. 70 of our fellow countrymen and women are murdered every single day. Our education outcomes continue to steal our children's futures, and positive progress is slow. 8 months ago, the Democratic Alliance entered the Government of National Unity for 2 reasons. First, to prevent the MK from getting their hands back on the levers of power, where they would be able to loot another 4.9 trillion rand of our GDP and plunge our country into another 9 wasted years, where it wouldn't be the school children, it wouldn't be the poor that benefit, it would have been the same old elite that ate out of the trough of the public purse and have led our country to where it sits today. But we also joined the Government of National Unity. We joined the Government of National Unity so that we could play our part in helping to turn South Africa around. To turn the tide.
Honorable Steenhuisen, please take your seat. Honorable members, for the last time, once again, I'm pleading with you. Don't drown the speaker on the floor. Over to you, Honorable Steenhuisen.
We joined the Government of National Unity to turn our country around so we can finally turn our back on the looting, the corruption and maladministration that typified the 9 wasted years under President Jacob Zuma. But we also joined to be part of the growth and jobs agenda and to make sure that we confront the crises that face us. The truth is, we've persisted for far too long with policies that fail South Africa. State monopolies being bailed out over and over again. Excessive regulation that makes it harder for businesses to grow. Empowerment policies that benefited the few and not the many. And a tariff regime that pushes up prices with no benefit, even to the companies that those tariffs are meant to protect. And underpinning that, a thoroughgoing lack of accountability, where those responsible can sit in the gallery of Parliament watching our proceedings instead of behind bars where they belong. Worse still, in the face of this crisis, we've yet to respond with the urgency and determination to make a clean break from the past and to set forth boldly on a new path of success. And now, having made ourselves weak over those 9 wasted years, we confront a new threat: US tariff barriers, potential threat of AGOA, and possibly even sanctions by a regime driven by an administration that will put America's interests ahead of ours. And make no mistake about that. And so what do? When a country faces a crisis, it needs to unite and navigate the threat. And that is what we must do now. And the GNU must practice what it preaches. And that is why, in a variety of portfolios, we've taken a decision to focus like a laser beam on growth and jobs. And that was what the President set out in the SONA. I was in Ceres yesterday to mark the first shipment of South African apples to Thailand in 16 years. Just one example of how this government is opening up new markets for our agricultural products. Solly Malatsi, ministers on a mission to get fast, reliable broadband into the hands of millions of people in rural areas. Dr. Schreiber opening South Africa to skills and to tourists. Minister McPherson fast-forwarding infrastructure projects. Honourable Garube, Minister Garube, focusing on long-term education excellence through a strategic reorientation. And Minister George, ensuring regulations to enable sustainable growth. We need to approach our trading partners now and seek to lower...
Steenhuisen, please take your seat. Honourable Member.
Will John Steenhuisen take a question?
Honourable Steenhuisen, can you take a question?
No, I wasted 9 years listening to this stuff in the House
He doesn't
under
want
his
to
previous
take a
leader.
question. Please sit down, Member. You can proceed, Honourable Steenhuisen.
We must turbocharge Operation Vulindlela. We must take up the World Bank's offer of a government-wide regulatory review. We must bring down the costs of living for our consumers. We must allow equity alternatives to ownership requirements in every sector. And we must make the bold decisions that are required to get our country moving forward. But there's one more thing we must do. There's one more thing we must do. And that is remember that South Africa cannot succeed unless everybody in South Africa succeeds, and I mean everybody, no exceptions. And that means we must redress the wrongs of the past, but we must do so in a way that grows employment and grows our economy. It makes no sense, for instance, that 30 years of transformation has occurred alongside a 50% increase in unemployment. We cannot redress the past by compromising the present or sacrificing the future. We must ensure that we respect cultural and language rights, which exist precisely because South Africa is a diverse and divided country. And we must ensure that every single South African feels safe in their homes and at their place of work. And that includes our farmers and farm workers. The dismantling of the rural safety units was a catastrophic mistake, and it opened the door to a collapse of rural policing and the targeting of our farmers and farm workers of all races by violent criminals and syndicates. Just this weekend, I was in Tabanchu, in Vicksburg, and other parts of the Free State, with commercial farmers and small-scale black farmers to listen to their heartbreaking stories about how they fear for their families' lives, and they are preyed upon almost monthly by syndicates of stock thieves who destroy their opportunity to grow their businesses. Cases get opened but are never investigated. They know who is responsible but cannot secure arrests or convictions. This situation cannot go unaddressed. And as a result, in my capacity as Minister of Agriculture, I'm announcing that we're going to work with the sector to design a comprehensive plan to combat farm murders, stock theft, and improve rural safety. I look forward to collaborating with the Minister of Police and the entire Justice and Security cluster to bring an end to the scourge once and for all. Madam Speaker, we live in times of both great hope but also great fear. It is time for us as leaders, the people of this House, to lead by example. We should seek to unite, not to divide. We should seek to build, Mr. President, not to break. We should choose to reflect the best of ourselves and banish the worst. Madam Speaker, we must recognize the moment that we find ourselves in for what it is, a moment of great danger for the people of South Africa. For if they fall prey to the historic revisionism that we've just heard from the Honourable the Leader of the Opposition, they could lull themselves into some complacency that somehow things were better when those policies and persons were in charge. Nobody took more advantage of the people of South Africa than the leader of Umkhonto we Sizwe, even using their money to build his own house while people lived in poverty. And we must reject the revisionism, because had we had that 4.9 trillion rand that was stolen under Mr. Zuma, we would have schools that were working, clinics that were functioning, police and nurses on the streets, and South Africa would be a better place. But never you mind, Mr. President, it's up to us now to pick up the baton and to take this country forward. But it means that we need to do whatever we can to turn the economy around. The time for a break with failed policies is now. The time for a new approach
Honourable
is
Minister,
now.
your time is up.
Now is the
You
time.
can take your seat.
Thank you.
Thank you, honourable members. Please take your seats. I'm now calling the next speaker, Honourable Malema.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the NCOP. We want to make it very clear that we should not be confused with a generation of cowards who can be bullied by imperial forces and power-hungry individuals intoxicated by the wealth of apartheid. The United States of America has bullied nations before and imposed senseless and arbitrary sanctions and threatened wars. But we are a different generation. We are a generation of economic freedom fighters and will not be bullied, Mr. President. We agree with you, President, that we should not be bullied. We stand on the shoulders of the giants who confronted the establishment with their very lives, and we are willing to follow in their footsteps. We are not cowards, and they must not try us. Chair, President Cyril Ramaphosa stood before a joint sitting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces on Thursday last week, addressing South Africans and the world to deliver his 8th State of the Nation address. Yet he spoke as if it were his first ever SONA. There was no sense of accountability, no meaningful reporting, and no acknowledgement of the economic crisis facing our people. The President did not tell us what happened to the National Development Plan. He did not say whether it is still the guiding policy of South Africa, nor did he acknowledge that the country has been governed without any clear, practical and guiding policy. Today, we have the medium-term development plan, but its direction and impact remain unclear, just another failed NDP. In reality, the neoliberal right-wing coalition has no credible economic plan. There is no clear strategy to create jobs while more than 12 million people remain unemployed. The economy is stagnant, and these are undeniable facts. We are facing a crisis as a nation. The crisis of high food prices, the crisis of unaffordable transport costs, the crisis of soaring petrol prices, the crisis of gender-based violence and femicide, and the collapse of the National Gender-Based Violence Command Center without an explanation. The crisis of water shortage in Mzinyati, Skukuni, and many other parts of Gauteng. It's a serious crisis. The crisis of inadequate housing in Alexander, Umlazi, and Khayelitsha. The crisis of collapsed municipalities that lack the capacity to deliver basic services. These are the crises the President inherited when he was elected President of the Republic of South Africa on 15 February 2018. In 2018, you said you will focus on rebuilding, yet things only got worse for our people. In 2019, you said to Mamina, the nation sent you, but to this day, we don't know what you went and did after you were too much. It was in 2019 when you stood before South Africa after asking us to send you, and you promised the nation speed trains and a smart city. You asked us to imagine a country where bullet trains pass through Johannesburg as they travel from here to Musina, and they stop in Buffalo City on their way from eThekwini back here in Cape Town. You said to us, the time has arrived to build a new smart city founded on the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. We sent you to fulfill these dreams of yours, and 6 years later, you have not returned with a speed train or a smart city, and your term of office is slowly nearing an end. You said 2020 will be the year of tackling state capture and ensuring accountability. Yet not a single person has been arrested despite the 1 billion spent on the Zondo Commission report. In 2021, you declared it the year of recovery. Yet South Africa's economy deteriorated further, with economic growth falling below 1%, except for the brief rebound following the reopening of the COVID-19, which collapsed almost immediately. In 2022, you claimed you will address governance failures, yet corruption became one of the biggest issues under your leadership. And that corruption has found its way now into the judiciary. We never had crisis of corruption in the judiciary. It only started with you when you sealed the CR17 documents in court. We listened to you in 2023 when you called on the nation to work together, yet it was your own political party, the Former Liberation Movement, that continued to deploy incompetent comrades to municipalities, boards of state-owned enterprises, provincial departments, and national government. And when you tried to tell us the story of Tintswalo in 2024, we told you right there and then that you were talking about a Tintswalo who does not exist. The real Tintswalo was born in a shack, raped at the age of 6, dropped out of school before reaching grade 7, and was murdered while looking for a job. That's the Tintswalo we know. And now, this year, you tell us that you will not be bullied. We agree with you that we must not be bullied, but you fail to tell us what you are going to do about it. It is not enough to simply say you will not be bullied. You must tell us what action you will take. When you respond on Thursday, we expect you to provide real, detailed response to Donald Trump. But we know that the 940 billion infrastructure plan is yet another empty promise. We know that 375 billion allocated to SOEs, which still do not have a clear reindustrialization strategy, is a waste of money. We know that the corporate approach and strategy for Transnet, the unbundling of Eskom, and the so-called modernization of ports and airports are all just privatization in disguise. President, we know that blended finance will become another looting scheme when students here at CPUT are sleeping outside at this very moment due to lack of housing. But as economic freedom fighters, we have adopted the theme of the year of picket lines. We are going back to the streets, we are reclaiming our identity, and we want to reunite with our people. We'll go to the streets to demand water for our people, to demand the speedy allocation of housing, to demand the eradication of pit toilets, and to fight for service delivery. We are taking our picket lines to the National Treasury and the Reserve Bank to demand nationalization and the transformation of the economy. We will picket outside correctional facilities to demand an end to overcrowding and syndicates within prison that control crime in the outside world. And we will demand the expulsion of private companies such as G4S, which has links to Israel and runs a prison in Mangaung. We continue to stand with the people of Palestine who remain under siege. We agree as the National Assembly that the Israeli embassy must be closed. Yet their flag continues to fly in our country, while Palestinians are threatened with mass deportation to foreign lands. We support the government's case in the International Court of Justice, and we must remain resolute in the face of sanctions and sponsored attacks. And importantly, we must oppose the colonization of Gaza by the USA. Justice and freedom for Palestine. One day, the people of Palestine will know the true meaning of freedom. Mr. President, we are not being attacked by Trump administration because you did anything wrong. They are attacking us because of our stand on Israel. They are attacking us because of the action the government has taken to ICJ. And we are saying to you, do not be misled by people who are saying you are under siege because of expropriation, which is meaningless act. That act does not say anything, and they all understand that language. They are using it to fight our case against Israel. And when you say they cannot bully us, you must start by removing the Israeli embassy to show them that we will not be bullied. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member.